Hi there, Winnebago owners. Today in your 2017 Winnebago Minnie Plus, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install MORryde assisted steps. The main benefit of upgrading to these steps is for safety and convenience. These ones are going to be more solid than your traditional steps, and we'll show you those here later, the traditional ones that are underneath. But with these, we have got that contact to the ground, so it's very solid when you're stepping in. It just feels like you're walking into somebody's home. When you step on regular steps, the whole motorhome is moving with you, but these feel very natural. Each one's got a grip on it, as well as raised sections to ensure you get good traction, and they're very wide steps, so you get plenty of surface area. The other big benefit on these is that they have the Strut assist. So when you go to lift these up, if you have the non-assisted version, these steps are pretty heavy, and you do get the leverage advantage of it pivoting there, but you still got to put all your force into lifting this up, and you're kind of pushing it close to over your head, and that can get pretty difficult when you're trying to go up higher. With this one though, it's very easy because we've got that shock there that supports it. And if you're anywhere above kind of straight out, the assist does the rest of it for you. If I let go here, you'll see that the assist would bring it all the way in. I don't recommend just letting it go like that because it will slam in there, so you should slowly let it do the work for you. But it's very easy to bring them up and down. I don't need a lot of effort to pull it down. And you can see once you get about to this point, that's kind of where the weight of the steps and the strut are about equal in their power. The legs on bottom are adjustable, so we're on a nice concrete parking lot here that we're working on today, but when you get to your campsite, you may have some uneven ground that requires maybe one leg to be down further than the other to get proper contact to the ground. The levers on bottom will let us push our legs back in if we need to make an adjustment like that. If you need to pull them out, they simply just pull outward. Let's push these back in and take a look at the old steps and how much they are not going to provide us that stability that these new ones do. So these ones slide out. These are easy to take out, similar to the other ones, but you have to bend over quite a bit farther to get those down. We can already see that it's a big wide step, but not quite as big as the ones we've got on the MORryde. And we don't have any grip tape on there, just the raised section, so we're not getting quite as good a traction. But the main thing here is that when I step on it, the step begins to give. It doesn't feel solid, and the whole motorhome starts to rock. So if you're just trying to do some service, getting in and out of this thing, it's not as stable. Now, once you get to your campsite and you put down your landing gear and stuff, that's going to help prevent your motorhome from moving, but the play that you see here in the steps is still going to be there. So we can eliminate all that with our MORrydes here. And installing our MORryde doesn't require us to remove our old steps. And since you do have to lift these steps up to reduce the weight, the steps are constructed of aluminum. And again, that assist really does most of the work. I would say with something like this, let's go back down and just see how easy it is. Can my single pinky lift this up? Very easily, one pinky, full control. And MORryde's thought about loading and unloading your RV or motorhome as well. We can see we've got an extra deep, large step here for our top step. So that way when we're trying to get some large items in here that you might have to go at a strange angle, maybe you're putting a new couch or chair in, having this extra wide step here makes a huge difference in getting the kind of angle and amount of leverage you need to carry those heavy objects in and out. Now there are a few options for various sizes so you can get the appropriate one for your motorhome. You can get it in either a 3 or quad step. We're showing off the 3 today. They do come in some varying widths as well. We're using the entryway size that we're showing off today is 23 3/4 up to 24 1/4 for its acceptable entry door width. But there are also wider ones. You've got a wider door that works between 27 3/4 up to 28 1/4. And for the entry height for your motorhome, you'll want the 3-step version if your height is between 31.5 inches up to 37.5 inches, and that's from the ground to the threshold where you step into your RV or motorhome. For the quad step version, that's going to be between 36.5 to 42.5 inches. So now that we've taken a look at our steps, if you follow along with me, we'll show you how to prepare the inside of your entryway door here and get them installed. We'll begin our installation first by just verifying what our entryway looks like and if we need to make any modifications. I'd recommend by starting with checking the width of your entryway So we're looking here to the other inside edge there. So we're just over 24, probably at about 24.25 for this one. That's important for determining the appropriate steps, because you can get these steps in varying widths as well as lengths. So the next measurement you're going to want to take is from the ground to the top here where your entry is. And so this is about 35 inches here. Both of those are important to determine, again, how wide you need your steps to be to appropriately fit in your doorway and fold up. And then we need to know the distance to the ground to know how many steps you're going to need, whether you just need a 2-step, 3-step, 4-step. All that's going to come into play based on those measurements. After you get those measurements and you determine the appropriate step for your motorhome, you'll check the inside of your entryway here. The inside edge here in most motorhomes is going to have trim that runs down the inside, and we need to remove some of this trim because we're going to have to clamp our steps to this piece here for our assist that our steps provide us for lifting them up. So we're going to be removing this completely. Things like this too, there was a fire extinguisher that was located right here. We are going to need a little bit of room on the inside edge as well to secure our steps. So this is probably going to have to get moved out of the way as well. So now we're going to take our tape measure, place it on the floor, and measure up our trim here. We want to go up to 22 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to make a mark. We're going to cut out the trim below that. So we got it right here. We're just going to make our mark with our razor knife right there so that we know where we need to cut that. We're going to make the same mark over here on the other side. 22 1/8 there. We got those marked out. We're going to cut that out. We got that measurement from our instructions. You'll want to verify that in yours as well, because if you have a different size step than what we're using here, those measurements may vary slightly. So I went ahead and just used my razor knife there to just make the mark all the way across. We're going to switch to a rotary tool. You can use the razor knife if you want. The material here is fairly difficult to cut with the razor knife, so that's why we're switching. And we're just going to zip this along the edge here, cut this. And we're trying not to go too deep, so after you cut it a little bit, I'm going to switch back to the razor knife just so we can kind of score the edge a little bit and verify if we've cut all the way through. It looks like I still need to cut a little bit deeper. We've cut all the way through here on the edge, but further in I need to cut a little more, because we're trying not to score up the inside of the doorway. So after we cut it across, we can then just pop it off of here. It looks like we're going to need some assistance from our screwdriver here, just because there's a couple of small nails holding this trim piece in place. So we're just behind it, prying it off of there. All right, and it looks like we've got a nail left behind. We'll have to grab a pair of needle nose pliers or something and just get that out of there. We got this trimmed out because we need our steps to be able to sit relatively flush against the inside of our door frame here. This piece of wood kind of pushes in just a little bit, so once we get a little bit of pressure on it, it should bring it flush with our doorway. We're then going to trim the trim piece here on this side the same way, so that way our steps can fit in this location. Also, you want to check the bottom here. There's a trim piece that we've got located here. This also has to go because our steps need to be able to sit flush against the inner frame here, and that includes the bottom. And this is going to keep us gapped out a little over an inch. All right, we should be pretty well prepared at this point. We've got all the stuff out of the way to get our steps in here. So I'm just going to move some tools out and we'll get those set in place. So here's our steps. It does have a handle on it to make things a little bit easier when lifting it. It's not light, so it's doable. They're aluminum, so for the size, it's light, but I would recommend 2 people for this, but it can be done with 1. We're going to go in sideways like this, and then we're going to turn it into position. And we're just being careful not to ding up any of the walls while we're doing this. We twisted it and pulled it up close. We're now going to loosen these up with the 7/16 socket. That will allow us to slide it inward. And we're going to put them about just real close to hand tight. That way it kind of helps stay in the position we slide it to. Something like this. Then we're going to do the other side here the same way. And now we can bring our steps out. These will slide outward, and we need them to contact the outer edge of our doorway there. We've got those out. We can go ahead and snug those back down. And that'll hold our steps into position there for us. Now we're going to take the provided hardware here. These are the screws that it comes with, and we're going to get this screwed down to the surface. I did double check myself just to make sure my steps were centered between the door. That way it'll look all nice when we go to put it back away. So we're going to run these down here. It's going to take a total of 4, 2 per each bracket. We got one over on the other side. So we're just going to kind of set this in here. I'm actually going to pull as far in as I can on it as well. And we're just going to run this down. And then we'll get our other one over here. Now when you pull your steps out of the box, the legs here may or may not be inserted. If they're not inserted, this is the location that you'll slide them in. We'll slide one out just so you can see that. There is notched edges in there. Those are going to face on the edge that has the lever on there. That's for adjusting the height. So it just slides in, and then you'll push it on this to allow you to insert it. To extend it, you just simply pull out. You only have to press on the lever to put it back in. So now we're going to fold it all the way down. And then we're going to extend the legs until they touch the concrete. And this way we know we've got good secure steps. This all feels nice. So next we're going to be sealing in the inner entryway to our inner walls there. We're going to screw this down to the inner edge of our wall here. Now we have a piece of wood here that's coming out that is flush with the inside lip of our door here, so we can screw right into it. But if, for example, you didn't have this piece of wood and you had to go to this wall here directly to this piece, you do get some shims in your kit that'll allow you to take up that gap to make everything flush. And these are all the various shims. They do come in various thicknesses, whether you want 1/4 inch, a 1/6 of an inch, or an 1/8 of an inch. You've got those various thicknesses, and just use as necessary to take up this gap. Now again, we've got this piece of wood that runs right here that we're going to be able to screw directly into and be flush, but if you didn't have that, that's what these are for. We're just going to use the hardware that it comes provided with here to run it in place. And I am going to just ever so slightly try to keep this, because it does flex just a little, just try to keep it straight up and down all the way down. So we're just going to give it just a little bump there and screw it into place. If you're running it in and you see it's pulling this piece out, all you need to do is just back your screw out some. That'll let your piece push back flush again, and then just run it back in. And we might do that a couple of times just to make sure we get it as snug and as close as we can. And we're just going to repeat that running down. After you get them screwed in on the one side, you're going to put them in the same locations over here on the other side. Then we can adjust our final adjustment here for our latch, because after you screw those down, they may drag ever so slightly with the original adjustments that we had made to those. So we're just going to let it in. Yeah, we can feel there's a slight amount of drag on this side right there. So we're just going to loosen it up a little bit and just readjust this. So I'll just give it a little bit of a looseness, slide it in just a little bit, and then we'll snug it back down. Check it one more time. I don't feel any drag on either side. It's nice and smooth, and we are making contact on our inner lip on each side. Next, we want to verify that our door is going to be able to shut, because you can see sometimes you may have accessories on here that may contact the door. So we're just going to verify and see if this is going to close or if we're going to have to remove this. And just go slow with it. And the door did latch properly with our accessory in place. So that works out great. We don't have to make any modifications to our door. Our steps go into position just fine. They lower down easily, and you can see the self-assist really works well on this. And that completes our installation of MORryde's assisted steps on our 2017 Winnebago Minnie Plus.